Today, we're having a socially distant ChillPoint and partying like it's 2021. This is ChillPoint. Hey, you two, you're supposed to be socially distant, not poking
We're one
each other.
entire pole apart.
Yeah.
But it's an important
Look,
unit of measurement.
We can use portals here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Only because of the Paul portal, though. Like, it's very limited use, but it's still here.
Yeah. I feel good though. I was younger in 2021.
I didn't think we were gonna start off with a downer, but all right, we can get this up again.
You had your long flowing locks as well.
That's true. I did. Yeah.
I still have mine.
Mm-hmm. I have mine too, but they're in a bag somewhere else.
Yeah, when are you getting rid of
I
that?
keep forgetting to. I gotta get on that. Holy shit. Yeah. Ooh.
Beige hair going gone. Hey everybody, welcome to ChillPoint. And as previously mentioned, we're doing the remote thing today, just because we had a couple of members of the crew get some exposed to somebody who got COVID. So we want to you see it. James posted on the Twitter, but we had to we're being cautious. Changing around some of the streams and stuff, switching some things to remote, that kind of stuff, just to make sure everything continues to be fine.
Yep. Look, I haven't gotten COVID yet, and I will scream the day I get it.
I mean, the thing is, we might have already got it, and it might have been so benign.
No, I refuse. I refuse.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to get it, I guess.
I would like to not.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want look.
Yeah.
No,
I feel you.
I've never been on the pulse of anything else. I'm not doing that either.
You're gonna rely on your lack of pop culture coordination to protect you.
Look, Paul, I've just started streaming Kingdom Hearts at home, and that game's from the early 2000s. So you can all hang out in 2021 if you like. I'm going back to high school. I don't know why I wanted. I should skip a couple of years forward. High school was bad.
Yeah, high school is not a good. Yeah, you don't want to go back to that.
High school was not great.
And for that previously mentioned reason, there's no checkpoint this week. But that doesn't mean there isn't any video game news. And it also doesn't mean that I don't still keep marking stories for potential video game silliness. So let's take...
We should briefly also mention there's no checkpoint next week either.
Oh, yes. Good point.
But that's for a different reason.
Yes.
That one was already preempted.
Yeah.
You were supposed to learn about it yesterday but it didn't, and now you're learning now.
Yes. So starting with there's some news about things that aren't happening. some news about things that aren't news. Which is E3. And we joked about a few months ago, we joked about we're like, well, if we had E3 and nobody came, ha ha ha. I think the lower third was like,
nobody's going to E3 or something.
Nobody's going to E3. I think that was the name of the episode, was like, no one's going to E3.
Prescient.
Yeah, it turns out that when nobody goes to your convention, it doesn't really work too well. When nobody goes to your expo. So they've had to cancel it after a number of today. So it was sort of, who knows what the actual timeline was internally, but from the outside perspective, early in the week, there was a story about Ubisoft deciding to not go
And Sega, I think.
And Sega also. And, already Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo weren't going. We knew that. And so now Ubisoft and Sega weren't going. And so everyone was sort of preparing more stories about, nobody's going to E3.
Who's going? Is it just an indie event? Was it the biggest name I found anyone could come up with where they're like, oh, we haven't heard if they're going or not, is like Konami. And given how the gaming public looks at Konami, I don't think anyone was hoping for anything there.
It'd be interesting to see Konami show up there, but I don't think they're I don't think pachinko is that popular in North America.
I was gonna say, I don't think you want to rest the success or failure of your video game convention on Konami pulling out something amazing.
Yeah.
At your at debuting. So yeah, not so good. And E3 obviously has had we've talked a lot about E3, whether it has a place in the current ecosystem for video games and for the sort of hype machine for new games and stuff. And apparently, at least at the moment, it doesn't. I feel like part of, with the pandemic and everything, all these companies kind of figured out how to do their own remote game stuff.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is actually better. We kind of like this. We can do it on our own schedule. We don't have to, do all this, suck up to, all these video game journalists or whatever. We can just do whatever we want and invite who we want and present it exactly the way we want it. This is way better.
It's a weird feeling, right? Because it's like, we knew for the last several years, it's like, we have an excuse as to why E3 isn't happening.
Well, I mean, they only didn't happen like the first year COVID hit, and they didn't happen I don't think they happened in 2022.
Yeah.
But they went digital for a couple of years.
They went digital for 2021.
Yeah.
And that was its own disaster of a event.
It didn't feel right, correct? And then now, and here we are at this thing where it's like, well, we're going to do this. It illustrates that E3 can only be held if all the if a lot of video games, like the vast majority of video game companies, have to be interested in it as a means to promote their product.
And I mean, well, so I believe it was yesterday, IGN broke the news that they had sources, and they quoted an email that apparently got sent out to people saying that E3 was canceled, and they stated it in a way that was like, there's not enough interest in whatever to have this event go on, which is it was a really like formal way of saying no one wants to come to our party, so we're not holding it. And then they did confirm that, I think, later in the day that E3 wasn't going, or E3 is not going to E3.
Yeah.
And then this morning, I actually read an interview from someone at E3. I think it was on like gamerbiz.com or something, who's part of the ESA. So they had like a disclaimer about that, but they were asking questions about, like, they tried to ask questions about, hey, what about 2024? And E3 was not willing to give any kind of information of like, oh yes, we're definitely doing 2024. They gave the very standard PR things of like, oh, we want to do stuff with the gaming industry and we're here to help and do like whatever's. So it depends on what things are going on. But they also said like an interesting thing about how some companies we're starting to see the effects on some companies from COVID having delayed a lot of things. Because during COVID, some stuff was still coming out, and it's like, well, yeah, so a lot of projects were at the tail end of finishing, so they could do that.
Makes sense.
But
yeah.
A couple of years of like if early development in certain things,
right? Even if everyone's even if everyone's pretty much back to work now, there's that lag is sort of
and that kind of leads credence to the whole thing of some people were saying Nintendo didn't have enough to do an E3 presentation, but there was also the one interesting question I think that got asked that really stuck out to me was E3 is run or owned by the ESA.
I believe so, yeah.
Which is essentially a lobbying group for gaming things and whatnot, and advocating, and that's what they call it. That's how they position it, and they make a lot of money off of E3 for their organization.
Yeah,
and they were asked directly, how can you continue to do your advocacy and the things that you say you're doing under the ESA without E3 happening? Which I think is an interesting question that they definitely tried to avoid. And then the person asked again, yes, okay, but does that affect your budget? And they said no.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's still going, it is probably hurting.
It's funny you mentioned that, because that's when it comes to like, oh, well, this is an organization designed to help promote the development and the flourishing of an industry. And I just watched a thing the other day about the British Play Choice 10.
Okay.
Remember the Play Choice 10 arcade cabinet that you could play like 10 Nintendo games on?
The only arcade game I played was DDR.
Fair enough. Okay.
Sorry.
Paul, do you remember the Play Choice 10? Fuck. Okay, so I want you to picture an arcade cabinet. Does everyone know what an arcade cabinet is?
They can hear you.
Yes, yes.
Great. Picture an arcade cabinet that has an NES inside it, essentially, with 10 games plugged into it, and it has 2 monitors. And on the top monitor is a thing that shows you, here's all the games that are currently loaded into this arcade cabinet, and you shove money into it and you buy time to play. So like a quarter is worth like 300 seconds or something. So you get to play an NES game for 300 seconds. If you keep popping more quarters into it, then you have more time you can play it. Now, I've seen these in North America, and they had 2 big monitors, one on top of the other, because the main monitor where you play and the second monitor has the menu of all the games. In Britain, they didn't have that model. They had one that was like a much smaller monitor, like a 15-inch or a 10-inch or whatever it was, so much smaller monitor instead. And I was like, that's weird. Why'd they do it that way? Because an arcade cabinet maker in Britain got the license to make these things at the time that they were very popular. Mm-hmm. So they made these things. Okay. Here's the point I'm building to. In the video, there's a sticker on the back of all of these cabinets that says levy paid, with a logo for BACTA, the British Amusements Catering and British Amusements and Catering Trade Association.
Okay.
And BACTA would sell rolls of these stickers to people so that they could, and that was like, if you had an arcade amusements machine, you would peel the sticker off and you put it on the back, and it was like £1 per sticker, essentially, so that that would prove that, yes, you paid your levy for this machine, and therefore it's authorized by BACTA. The people who are making it are authorized by BACTA, and it's showing that per machine that you have paid something into it. The money went to BACTA to help keep BACTA going, because they would have like trade meetings, and they would do things to help promote the British amusements and catering trade itself within Britain and within Europe. For example, a lot of arcade machines that got made in Great Britain would be exported to Europe as a whole. Okay. And at some point, a manufacturer said, why the hell do we need to pay BACTA any money for this? I have a self-sustaining organization. Like, I already know I'm selling arcade cabinets fucking everywhere. So why am I paying BACTA any money for a levy? And so they stopped. And BACTA was like, you can't do that. And it's like, there's no law on the books that says that we have to do this. You're asking us to do this, and we're all doing it, but there's no law. And as a result, BACTA kind of like shrunk a lot and could not do as much. They still exist, but they could not do as much work, because now all these arcade machines aren't paying them a whole bunch of money, so they can't actually keep doing more things. And so there's a question of, was BACTA doing anything at the time that was actually helping to promote the industry, or were they only doing this to pad their own pockets so they could continue to exist as a going concern? Because if you look at it now, arcade amusement machines from Britain are not a big deal anymore. They're not a thing that people like. It's like, they're not a promoted industry. And so you have to ask yourself, with the ESA, it's like, if E3 was designed to be a way for a lot of money to come in so that the ESA could continue to exist, Does the ESA need to continue to exist as a promotion or lobbying organization? Because maybe the industry is so big that it can sustain itself, or maybe it can't.
I don't know.
I mean, to be fair, arcade machines aren't really a going concern for anybody right now. They're arcade machines.
Arcades have fallen out of fashion because now you can play games at home.
I mean, obviously, the big thing that the ESA does, or at least the most obvious consumer-facing thing that they do, is they do all the ratings.
ESRB, yes.
Yeah.
I believe the ESA runs the ESRB.
Yeah, I
think so. Yeah. Maybe I got that wrong, but anyway, but yeah, I mean, I can see this, situation, like, there is the thing with, like, conventions of this, or, expos and stuff. There's sort of a, I guess, a conventional wisdom that a lot of them don't make money, right? You know, like various convention, especially like fan conventions or whatever, don't really make money. They're more sort of for the promotional thing is sort of considered to be part of.
Fan conventions are typically started because, well, they're started by fans who just want to see these things happen, and then if they get any money past what their costs are, it goes into their next year. Yeah, whereas there are a number of private conventions, and I'm assuming not necessarily the convention itself is making money, but the group that is helping run the convention is probably making.
I mean, like ReedPop, right?
The chunk of that.
Right.
They were supposed to be doing E3.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess obviously they were like, well, not enough people are going to come to this thing. I like the what was their line? They say it simply had not garnered the sustained interest necessary to execute it in a way that would showcase the size, strength, and impact of our industry. So it was going to look.
Nobody wants to come to my party.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we put it on anyway, it would be like 10 people in a giant convention hall, and it would make the video game industry look bad that we can't put on a good convention.
It's kind of not. I guess it's so. GDC just happened recently, and so and I was following some people on Twitter, and there was this sense that because we already knew some larger companies weren't going to E3.
Yeah.
There's the sense that I got from reading some people's Twitter accounts that it sounded like there were smaller groups of people who were still considering whether or not they should go to E3, but they couldn't figure out who else was going. So they were asking, "Hey, do you know who's going?"
Everyone was like,
everyone was like,
"It's like, I don't know. I don't know. Are you going?"
And that's pretty it's only a couple months away at this point. If you're still on the fence and like, that seems suspicious.
There's an idea of like, how do you go bankrupt? Well, gradually, then suddenly, right?
Well, yeah.
And that can be applied to a lot of things. And I think this might be a case where, because no one else in the industry could name other people who had firmly committed to go to E3, and maybe that might have also been at the feet of E3 to be like, to try to seek like, you might have had to do that thing is like, yeah, well, but Ubisoft is coming. You're like, well, if Ubisoft's coming, then I have to, as Microsoft, I think we have to have a thing there. And it's like, as Electronic Arts, if Microsoft and Ubisoft are going, if you just lie to enough people so they don't do a run on the bank, then everyone will probably stay at the convention. They'll be like, yeah, we're all happy to be here, right? But I think this might have gotten away from them, and it's like it's not able to convince enough people to attend it.
I mean, we don't know what their discussions are like, but I assume that part of the reason of getting ReedPop involved was to be like, oh well, because they run PAX and stuff, and that means they have booths and stuff set up for a lot of these companies at those events as well. That might have been with them there, maybe we can convince people that this will run in a very smooth way. Now, E3 being the the way E3 has kind of evolved into also a fan event and like other mixtures of things from what it was originally just as a trade show.
Yes.
It may not have COVID definitely effed them.
Yeah.
Really hard. But they may really not be in a situation to provide an event in the way that people want to do events now. And over like a couple of years too of people having to resync into an online only space and it working really well for a lot of them in terms of their promotion and getting their own stuff out there. I'm assuming on a much smaller budget.
I mean,
they might not have the budget currently allocated to do a bigger thing.
It's fair. Yeah.
I mean, we did stories about E3 being a problem like in 2018. Like,
yes.
E3 wasn't at the top of its game before COVID hit. So,
and everyone has always kind of wondered if it was going to always end up being a problem for a while.
They were they've been limping along for a little while at that point. Yeah,
I think if we hadn't had the hard shutdown of COVID, they might have continued to dwindle, or they might have found a way to do a rebound. But having something hit super hard like that doesn't really give you time to try to re-angle.
Now on the other side of like what is E3 good for event wise, because if you have GDC as this is the developers conference, it's like the idea is you're supposed to go there as a developer and you're supposed to do, but press are now attending GDC and talking about GDC more and more and more, and because everybody has social media, everyone's talking about their own experiences at GDC. So a lot of news and information come out of GDC quite a bit. And then if you have PAX on the other hand, which is supposed to be that gamers come to this event and it's where we get to experience these games, it's where we get to like line up and play a demo or interact with other people. And it's the public at large, the people who are the people who are most interested in consuming this thing. So you have the people designing it, the people consuming it, and then E3 existed between the two events. Kind of, I'm thinking of PAX West mostly, but it's like E3 exists in these two events where it's like, so what is E3 for? Well, as a trade show, companies talking to each other about the games that they make and getting to share that information and getting a chance to like, it's like, this is not a development thing. This is more about, this is a promotional thing, but it's not promotional in that we never wanted it to reach out past we're here to tell people this is what you'll want to play. And this is the stuff that's coming out. So you'll want to play this. And then all the gamers get excited because
this sort of trade show.
Yeah. And that trade show aspect is like, is that as necessary for E3 to operate as that promotional arm? And we've talked about that in the past too. It's like, do you need promo in that way when you can just reach out to your audience directly instead of having to provide a place to do it?
I don't think we need E3 in terms of large companies promoting.
Yeah.
E3 being all together in like one section during like a week of stuff coming out. Basically, it does that thing of like smaller things that are also there also get more eyes than they would. Or people who aren't interested in, say, Xbox, but no E3 is on and they're more for Nintendo and Sony, probably still end up reading Xbox news, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you get a little bit of a mishmash of that. That said, there are other events. There are other places where that still happens. That's why we have like, I'm more knowledgeable about the Nintendo stuff, but they do like their indie directs and other stuff as well.
Yeah.
There are smaller groups that have been doing their own showcases now too, and because there's legs in spaces of in terms of like a lot of news going on, those events still garner a fair amount of their own attention, as long as they're not competing against larger stuff, and they seem to be aiming for that.
Yeah.
E3 being a place where a lot of industry people show up, especially from Japan and other regions of the world, and then you maybe get a chance to show off your demo reel to someone, was a thing that I know is definitely important to some people. I think a lot of that happens at GDC now. Maybe that's something that can happen at Summer Games Fest. I don't know if it can happen in the same regard. I'm a little medium on Summer Games Fest currently.
It's funny with like part of the statement from ReadPop on the cancellation is say, we appreciate and understand that interested companies wouldn't have playable demos ready, and that resourcing challenges made being at E3 this summer an obstacle they couldn't overcome. Which is funny because a lot of these companies are doing things at Summer Games Fest, which is literally the same days.
Yeah.
So,
maybe
they
Keighley
did
was
have
definitely
demos.
gloating, like,
maybe they did have demos ready.
That news broke.
Lord Serrano makes a good point too, is that E3, as being a trade show, it's that this is also where you would sell your games to the buyers, right? Where game shops, distributors, that kind of thing. That's also a piece of it, but that's a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't think that's even super current.
Yeah, there is that idea that kind of trade show is not, has really fallen by the way. Like, it's just that sort of mode of retail is is very much sort of being phased out for various other things
that can be handled very easily online, and
through vendors and other things, through phone calls.
It's weird because it's like, does GameStop need to go to E3 to be convinced to carry an indie game for the Switch? Do they? Like, don't they just look at the catalog, or doesn't somebody sitting up in corporate just say like, oh, there's a lot of buzz out of GDC about Tunic, so let's make sure we carry physical copies of Tunic or Hollow Knight or whatever, right? Like, I'm picking things that are limited run game stuff, but I mean that kind of idea of like, oh, well, we should have a couple copies of Star Trek Prodigy's Switch game in stock because that's a hot thing, right? I guess. I mean, I don't know who makes those decisions.
I mean, we know actually how GameStop works is they order exactly the number of copies in that people have pre-ordered and no more.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, who knows? Maybe there'll be more information about this coming out over the next couple weeks in terms of sort of fallout. Hopefully, I mean, I can imagine that there's some indie developers and things, might at least like they're canceling it fairly far out. It's still a couple months out. So, bookings and plane tickets and all that kind of stuff, hopefully nobody's out a ton of money.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's, maybe it'll be one of those things where there'll be a whole bunch of indie developers who have plane tickets to go anyway, and they'll just like all hang out, which could be super fun. They'll just like, hey, we're going all to the same place anyway. We have non-refundable plane tickets, so we have to go. Yeah. Let's just, get together and do our own thing.
For the same time period as Summer Games Fest, they might just swap to that if they weren't already. Because my understanding is, I think last year they did a bit of a journalist hands-on day as well, and there was talk last year about doing more in-person stuff in the upcoming year. I'm not saying Summer's Game Fest is gonna be bad or anything. I just don't know if I'll care, because the Game Awards is also a big hype event, and yet somehow it seems really boring sometimes.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know.
The Game Awards is such a or not the Game Awards. Well, the Game Awards and also Summer Games Fest. It's a very focused thing, in the sense of, not in the sense of the Game Awards actually having Game Awards, but in the sense of, like, rather than, hey, let's have a big convention and do all this stuff, it's just like, here's a bunch of trailers, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
I hope you like them all.
It knows exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was quite trailer after trailer after trailer like I've seen showcases and stuff be.
That's true.
To me, Summer Games Fest felt a lot like Game Awards without awards, which was better because it just didn't have the sheen of we're acting like we're here for awards.
Right.
I honestly, if Keighley wants to do Summer's Games Fest and wants to do that as a big thing about promoting games and stuff, I would love it if he focused completely on that and then made the Game Awards just about Game Awards.
Mm-hmm.
And like really let people be on stage and have their moments, and not be about like, let's advertise new TV shows and stuff all the time, and let's have weird commercial breaks where we add in awards for the best GIF on the internet or those weird things.
Yeah.
You know, like make it a really, just go hard on the awards, make that really the focus. I would love to see that.
I love, just as one last thing with E3, in the comments, this art to a thing on Polygon, there's somebody saying, it's a shame to see it go. E3 literally saved my wife's life. And they're saying,
grab her from a burning building.
We're saying, I stayed up late because I was in the UK to catch the Squeenix presentation in 2015 for info on Final Fantasy 15. The wife had been ill for a couple of days and was sleeping in a different room. I checked on her and she was barely coherent, called the ambulance, and turned out there was swelling in the brain. If ignored, she could have ended up in a coma or worse within a few hours. So it's less E3 saved his wife and more the fact that he was up late because he was looking at the trailer thing. But, you know, so like I feel like that's not a function that E3 like has to exist to fulfill. You could also just like watch cartoons or something, but still. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be some, especially over the next couple of months, we'll probably see some pieces that are about the nostalgia of E3, especially from journalists and people who, like, I've seen already people who are like, oh, I went to an E3 in this year and that was my first whatever starting out as a journalist, and it really got me going here, and now I'm in this other group and I'm not going to be able to do an E3 for them, and that's less exciting. I wish I was going to be able to, because of things. I've also heard incredible horror stories, so maybe we'll get some pieces on that too.
I mean,
I mean,
fine.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, it's just that it's like E3's been canceled. E3 is not dead.
I'd be okay. It's fallen unconscious, and we have no idea if it will get back up again.
Yeah, everyone is now checking on it, and they're going to call the ambulance. And
are they? I don't think some people are.
I feel like with those kind of nostalgic think pieces, though, like the thing that they want wasn't going to happen anyway, right? Like even if E3 had gone ahead, it wouldn't have been the E3 like they remember.
Oh, certainly. I just, you know, when you have an event that people liked going to, I mean, we saw a lot of this during the pandemic, right? It's like, oh, I was really looking forward to going to such and such event that I normally go to, and now I can't, and that kind of thing. And it's a part of the this thing you've always kind of known to be there is not there anymore. It's kind of part of the grieving process. And yeah, E3's not like a person or whatever, but it's still it's still an event for some people that was a really good time for part of their lives. And so to think that it's not continuing there, I think it's nice to do pieces like that. I just think we'll see quite a few of them.
I think you're probably right. And
we don't have to talk about them on Checkpoint or ChillPoint. I mean, there's probably no point, but maybe we'll find out some really neat stories of interviews and stuff that happened at E3 as like examples of why people will miss it.
That's true.
Maybe we'll get some really cool scuttlebutt that's like 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm all for the 20-year-old scuttlebutt.
Right?
It's how we learn things for Checkpoint.
I know. I actually like those kind of stories where it's not like, sometimes we get comments in the YouTube comments. They'll be like, "This isn't news." We're like, we know it's not news, but it's just a new thing that we learned.
Fun. We just want to tell you about the thing we read.
Yeah.
We're doing our little book report.
This is from 15, 20 years ago, but we only found out about it now.
Or got confirmation, rather.
Or it's new to us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And therefore, it might be new to someone else.
Speaking of things that are dead, Sonic.
Hey!
Oh,
what?
right. Yeah, it's his 30th anniversary. So you know what that means.
He's too old to live.
No, he lives in the Logan's Run universe.
Oh, that
dies
makes
by
sense.
30.
Yeah, you think he'd be fast enough to outrun Logan?
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Here, I can switch
Carousel.
over to this. Ooh. Are you gonna play?
I don't know.
Sega.
Hello.
I definitely do have nostalgia for the Sega sound.
I know the Sega.
Yeah, it's really good. How Sonic died so hard the trailer won't play.
Yeah, play better. Wow.
Well,
this was working a while ago. Well,
we got time. I'm patient.
So yeah, anyway, Sonic there's a game coming out called The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Ooh, is it
By
an
the
Ace
coward
Attorney game?
Somebody, yeah. It is not an Ace Attorney game. Yeah.
Dang it. I would play a Sonic Ace Attorney game. Solving the murder of Sonic. Crossovers.
Somebody has a YouTube link. That is probably better than Steam.
Thank you, Fox.
Yeah, I find I can't always get Steam to play the trailers on anything.
Here we go. Let's check this out.
All right, ads.
The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog by the coward Robotnik.
Wow, what the hell does all of that mean?
New direction. I like that they're using other.
We're excited to announce. He's dead.
Wow.
It's like a visual novel.
Okay, I'm into this already.
I feel like this was. Well, I mean, technically, is it April the 1st in Japan? Because I feel like that's the whole idea here. Is it's like we made this thing, it's real, but yeah, it's completely a gag.
I mean, this does
right.
definitely. It is April Fool's. Mm-hmm. I hope this is real. It would like it. There's a Steam page and stuff for it, so
yeah,
like. Either Steam is in on it, or it is actually a game that exists.
You can play it. There's somebody online already playing it.
Okay, good. It is available.
I'm gonna download that.
That makes me feel good.
I'm here for more art of Tails in outfits. Love Tails. Tails is the best.
Yeah.
I mean, it does say that
he's not dead.
Amy Rose is hosting a murder mystery party.
No. Don't make this fake.
When Sonic the Hedgehog becomes the game's victim, everyone is off to get to the bottom of things. However, something feels a bit off. Is this really an innocent game, or is something more sinister afoot?
Ooh.
Amy finally got fed up.
Just pulled up the wrong hammer and beat the shit out of him.
Hit him with the hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a pretty... It's like, what could have happened to Sonic? He has an enormous imprint of a hammer on his face.
Could be anything. Maybe it's poison.
Could be anything. So yeah, this was literally came out like today. So I don't know. I also on the description on the Steam page at the bottom it says canon or head canon.
You decide.
Yeah, you know what they say. Everything is canon. And then asterisk. This is not a Sonic Team title, but we strongly believe in the power of headcanon.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's cute.
Oh, no, you get so many more interesting things with headcanon sometimes. I mean, not necessarily good things, but interesting things.
I feel I'm a little sad because technically was that news that we knew about yesterday?
No, it just popped today.
It just popped today. So it would not have made it into ChillPoint yesterday.
Oh, it's true. It wouldn't have made it in. That would have been sad.
Yeah. Sonic's 30th anniversary, and he's dead. And it won't be in next week's because it's canceled for the PBR.
Maybe there won't be any news by the time we get ChillPoint back, and then you can just pull for that.
Yeah.
Sonic's been dead for 3 weeks.
Look, you all maybe there'll be something really interesting that comes out.
I'll work it into my next 30th anniversary story, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited for that. I want to download it. Not right now, we're working, but...
In other news of people that are invisible, I don't know how this works. That's not a good segue.
I didn't know we had ghost news.
Shuffling on to Fiddler's Green.
John Cena is going to be in PGA Tour 2K23. And you can't see him. I don't know. I was sort of trying to do so. It didn't really work.
He's a big golfer, I guess. Is he?
I don't know if he's known as a golfer.
Does he do the "you can't see me" thing because his name sounds like "I've seen you"?
Cena, yeah.
Probably. I don't know. That's kind of his thing. Okay. I don't know why that's his thing. It makes no sense to me. But you know what?
He had many a gimmick for a while. So
yeah.
Wait, you're allowed to change gimmicks?
Yeah.
I didn't think that was true.
That happens a lot in wrestling, actually, is that you try a gimmick, and if it doesn't quite grab, then sometimes you get reworked after trying it for a bit.
So they're like comedians.
Yeah, and then you go out again, and you try your different gimmick, and if that doesn't work, then they might rework you again, and if that doesn't happen, then they just send you on your way. Sometimes the farm upstate.
He was like he was he had like a rapper thing for a while. Anyway, it's very...
Yeah.
The mythology behind wrestler gimmicks is complicated. But anyway, for whatever reason, John Cena is going to be in PGA Tour 2K23. Is he any good at golfing? I don't know. But he's apparently the stats of his things. He's very good at hitting long drives. He is extremely strong, which I guess makes sense.
Maybe we need a game that is so we have like a golf cross wrestling game where the two groups of players get transported into alternate worlds, and they need to find their way back by playing each other's sports. So all the golfers have to wrestle now, and all the wrestlers have to golf now.
Do not give Fortnite any ideas.
Can you golf in Fortnite?
They'll find a way, I'm sure.
I feel like
I'm sure it's coming.
A John Cena character, considering there's like the rocks in Fortnite, at least.
Yeah.
Does John Cena have at least one character in Fortnite? I feel like he's got to have, or like Peacemaker, maybe.
Doesn't he have like one from like the Jumanji? No, wait, that's not him. That
is The Rock.
That's still The Rock.
That's still The Rock.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I thought Cena had his. They had the John Cena hustle respect.
He's just in there for as himself. Yeah,
I assumed. Yeah. Anyway.
Like, and the game acts like a randomizer, so sometimes you're doing the golfing and sometimes you're doing the wrestling. And you find like items that you need for the other group with the thing, and then I could.
It sounds like Sports Story, actually, a little bit.
I mean, I guess I was going for like a more traditional golfing thing,
and
then a more traditional wrestling thing. I'm thinking of like how they mix Metroid with Zelda for randomizers, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I like that.
This is what I do. I make up games other people want that I also might want. They don't happen.
I made myself sad.
That it doesn't exist.
I mean, was it yesterday or the day before? I was like, you know what game I want, Beej? Zelda Katamari.
Oh no.
Honestly, Katamari, anything. So, Paul, think about this. You know how tourists there's the tourist mode in like some of the Assassin's Creed games?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's just that mode basically in everything, but the prince shows up and rolls it all up.
The prince in like there's so much stuff in like they've spent so much effort like modeling the world in an Assassin's Creed game that there's all sorts of stuff that you could roll up. It would be great.
Yeah.
And
using that fusion.
You just have like Altair like sticking out of the side of it, being like, trying to stab people. Speaking of games that people are playing, which is as a segue on ChillPoint works for basically anything, any story, I guess.
I'm glad you finally pulled that one out of your back pocket. Yep.
Yeah. Pokemon Go. They're making some changes to how their remote raids work.
Yep. And everybody's angry.
So a remote raid is where you can sit at home, but you can raid something that's far away from you?
Yes, they introduced this during the pandemic because they, the whole point of the thing was going outside and doing, and now people being in large groups was an issue. So they added in remote raiding, which I think they gave out like one free remote raid pass, and then you had to pay for additional ones.
Yeah, because like for a while they just, it wasn't even like remote raid. They just like did a thing where I remember talking about this on ChillPoint, where they just like extended the radius basically that you could do stuff.
Right.
So you could be at home while you're doing things. And then they as the pandemic sort of started to wind down, or as things started to open up again.
As people stopped caring about the pandemic.
Yeah, let's go with that.
As things started opening up again, they reduced that thing back down to where it was before. But they have this remote raid, so you can it's an in-game thing that you can buy that basically allows you to raid someplace without going there in person.
Right.
Because normally raids, you have to like get a bunch of people together and go and mess around with something. So the idea,
if you want to have any hope of actually winning that raid, yes, right. You can technically do a raid solo, and if you're doing one of the lower end raids, if you have a well leveled Pokemon of a good type to fight it, you can probably do that raid on your own. The higher level raids where all the cool legendaries and stuff hang out, though, generally you need more than one person. You need a few people.
Right.
So
at least since I played, which was a couple years back.
So they put out a thing the other day that they are going to be changing the setup for remote raids. They're making them they're increasing the cost in Poke Coins or whatever. They're approximately doubling the cost of them. And they're also limiting them to 5 per day maximum.
Oh.
Oh, that is.
And
that's.
They're making some other changes and stuff, and it's kind of like it's kind of a fascinating thing because it's not. And they talk like there's an interview on Polygon where they were interviewing one of the people from Niantic, and they're not doing it, or they're not doing things in like the best monetization way, right? They're putting they are raising the price, but they're putting a limit on it, and like they could be extracting more value.
So,
but Niantic has, they have this vision for Pokemon Go, right? Which is this like getting people going out and meeting up with other people and playing the game. And they're really locked into that. They really want to hold on to that, even though, I mean, one with the pandemic, but also, as has been talked about many times, if you don't live in a big city, it's kind of hard to get like 10 or 15 people together to go to a specific place. Or if you have mobility issues, you might not be able to go out to a park. Or there's all sorts of reasons why you might not be able to do this. But Niantic has this like, I guess this like philosophical decision that they've made that this is what the game is. And this is the point. And so people are playing it wrong is the problem. People are doing too many remote raids, which allows them to raid more things more quickly because you don't have to get 15 people and walk from one thing to the next.
You can just start it,
And so people are playing it wrong. And so they're like, okay, we have to stop this and make them play it right.
Yeah. So I understand coming up with a vision, and I understand being like, oh, we'd like to stick with that. The pandemic really did show that they could make a lot of options available for people, especially people who don't have the ability for like being able to go for long walks or even walk at all, or kids who are stuck in hospitals, that kind of thing. There's all kinds of And then, of course, they did do the thing where they started to roll that stuff back once people could go outside more and do things. And I'm like, I think it's great that you have a vision of how you see this being played. At the same time, like, fuck off. I'll play the game how I want.
Well, and it's like, but
I'm sorry.
But this idea of like, hey, maybe you should like adapt your game to how people are playing it as opposed to thing. And like there's a lot of consternation about this on Twitter and various messaging things. People talking about what a terrible idea it was, but I saw some people who were like. I have a certain amount of respect for a company that is willing to basically tank their game on principle because this is how they want it to be played, and it's like, I guess.
So there are ways you could do things where if you're like, we've noticed a lot of people who could be walking around aren't walking around, and that's the point of the app. Yeah. You could be doing more incentivized things of if you make your step count goals or you do whatever, you get extra bonuses, and you do like. There are more positive ways of doing that than saying, well, we just won't let you do things that also hurt other people who can't do things.
Yeah, and there's a lot. This is such a complicated information to it's no one is ever forcing anyone to play a game.
Okay.
Right? If we start from there, that's kind of the root of anything. If Pokemon Go just did not exist, then no one would play Pokemon Go.
Uh-huh.
Okay. That's true, unless you're in one of the Saw movies.
Yes, I know that's a tautology, right? I get that the idea of the thing does not exist, then no one would have that thing. And this is complicated because so if we start from that position of anybody who is like, well, I can't play this game because there are too many. I would have to make too many compromises to my health or to my ability to get around, or it would be an absolute. It would take me like way too many spoons to actually have to deal with playing this game.
Sure.
Then it's like, yeah, that is tough, and I sympathize. I don't know what that's like. I mean, the pandemic has given me kind of a bit of a window into that, but sure. I don't really know what it's like. And if that experience was never available for you in the first place, then you don't get to participate. But it also means it cuts you out of a piece of public life that anybody should be able to participate in. Anybody should be able to play a game, because why not? Right? Why not design even a board game, even fucking cards or cribbage or whatever? It's like everyone should be able to have that opportunity to take part in it in some way. And Niantic demonstrated that we can make adjustments to our game that allow everybody, because of the pandemic, who now get to see what it's like when you can't leave your house, when you can't go out and when you're not mobile, when you're potentially immunocompromised, when you're at danger of a lot of stuff. It's like they showed that we can make changes to this game to make this happen. And yeah, to take this step back is like, well, we want people to play it this way. And I'm like, you've already demonstrated that you can make the game play in this other way. And that is complicated because it's like they're literally saying we're willing to pass up on money, we're willing to pass up on engagement, we're willing to pass up on an audience that actually really wants to play this and wants to play it, but they need to play it in a different way. And I'm like, that sucks, because you're literally saying to a piece of your audience, it's like, but we aren't interested in making allowances in a way that allows you to do this, because it means that disabled people or immunocompromised people or anything like that have to spend money. I'm hale and hearty. I can go out and do a raid for free. I can walk, if I can find that. And I also live in a place where we can do that. Anybody who's unable to do that is now, I have to pay money for raid passes to participate in this kind of stuff. I have to always constantly be paying for raid passes if I want to play with Beach when he's walking around and doing stuff. And that doesn't feel right, that it's like the people who are hit the hardest with this also now are hit even harder because of that reason. That really sucks, because it's like, no one is forcing you to play this game, but at the same time, you are being removed from being able to participate with other people who can play the game. And I'm like, that doesn't feel right either.
The argument of any game that does this, because there are lots of games that do this when it comes to, hey, why don't you add difficulty options or these things. There is often a well, this is the vision of the director, or this is the way we want the game to be, or we want people to play the game a certain way. Those are all arguments and or reasons that they give, and that's fine.
Yeah,
if that's going to be your reason, great. You're putting a piece of media out into a public place. You're going to get criticized for what you do or you don't do, and you kind of have to put up with that.
Yeah.
At the same time, in Niantic's case, they put features in and then took them back out. And that I have a harder time being like, okay, I know you had a vision and all, and that you want to stick to that, but putting stuff in means that you gained a whole bunch of people. You potentially gained a huge player base who is like, oh, I can play the game now.
Yeah.
And now you've told them they can't play the game anymore. And I think that sucks.
Yeah, because it'd be like saying, well, we're going to allow people with blue eyes to play this game now. We found a way to let people with blue eyes play this game. And then you said, actually, we've now decided that we're not going to let people with blue eyes play this game. And it's like, well, that seems really weirdly arbitrary since you figured out a way to make it happen in the first place. And yes, all of these analogies are not the same thing, and they're all bad analogies.
Or, I mean, the thing that I'm imagining is like, a game that can be played with keyboard and mouse or controller.
Yeah.
And the developers look at their stats and realize that more people are playing with controller than keyboard and mouse. And they're like, this is a first-person shooter. You shouldn't be playing a first-person shooter with a gamepad. You know what? We're just going to remove the gamepad functionality from the game.
Yeah.
So people will play it right.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a developer doing that? Like, and people would be up in arms over that.
Yeah.
And I'd be mad too if I'd bought that game and was like, oh, cool, I can play with controller. And that's part of the reason why, because I look up that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't like playing with keyboard and mouse when I can help it. And I know we have other people who have the other preference. And if they decided that went away after you bought the thing,
and it's, yeah, it's just, yeah. I feel like, positive encouragement, positive reinforcement as opposed to, adding things as opposed to taking things away, right? I mean, maybe you can encourage people to do stuff in person by giving them more bonuses or whatever, but actually actively sort of taking stuff. Anyway.
Yeah.
The amount of, they've gotten a lot of pushback on it. So, I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they stick to their guns. They have shown themselves in the past to be somewhat flexible in terms of, they've like I said, with the, where they were doing things so that people could play during the pandemic, and then they were going to get rid of that, and then everyone can play. And so they sort of held off on getting, they changed how they were going to do that a little bit. So they have demonstrated that they do listen to people to a certain extent, but I don't know if there'll be enough, I don't know if they will stick to their guns in this or what, but
yeah. And I don't know how you achieve that balance, right? And that's if they're seeking a balance. I mean, they're still allowing you to do these things. It's just going to cost you more money if you want to do it. And it's like, I don't.
Yeah. I mean, so we've had stories like this before with Niantic, and the problem is going to be for them is if so it's one thing if they're like, oh, we don't care about anything, we're sticking to our vision. But the thing is, if they're not paying attention to their player base and what their players want before they make changes, and then they make these changes and they're constantly pulling back and then like trying again and pulling back, there comes a point where you do lose your any good faith you have with your consumer base repetitively, to a point where now they won't buy your other products.
Yeah, there's that too.
And now they're going to just maybe put all of their Pokemon from Pokemon Go into Pokemon Home and be done with it, or whatever. So you can only get away with that so many times, and by the time you get to a point where you like it's very obvious, it's too late to really grow it back.
Yeah. And maybe what happens is also the install base for Pokemon Go, the player base for Pokemon Go shrinks to a point where it's like, this is the core audience, these are the people who've always wanted to play this game, but are also who are completely able to play this game in the way that Niantic thought in the first place. And then it's like, and that might shrink so much that you might just be in a position where it's like, that's a whole different community of people who do this now. We don't even think about them anymore. Who knows?
And there is a point that, they've got stats, on their end, and it's, it's possible, even likely, that they're, the people who, a lot of the complaining is coming from, a vocal minority of people, where most people, this isn't going to affect at all because they're either not doing more than 5 raids, or they're or 5 remote raids or whatever. Like, they actually in this interview on Polygon, he asked about it, saying he says they're asking about people who are talking about it on Twitter and stuff, are the most vocal about these changes and stuff. And there's the response saying, I don't want to marginalize their voices because they're among the most enthusiastic players of the game who carry our message toward the wider community. One of Pokemon Go's traits, though, is its diversity of audience. One of the things I have to note to my team when we look at the data is the median player of Pokemon Go is probably something like a Singaporean grandma who just walks for 30 minutes to an hour a day with her senior group in the morning to catch Pokemon, and very, very occasionally raids, if at all. Those are folks that are playing daily, who are a core part of the audience and who are essentially part of the entire distribution of this incredibly diverse community. So when we talk about sustainability in the overall long-term game economy, we have to pay attention to all those segments.
Yeah, because in a game like the way that they designed it, there are multiple ways to approach playing that game.
Yeah, and there is of course the danger of our particular sphere is the sort of online, very sort of heavily gamer focused stuff. You can feel like that's the only market, and that's not necessarily true. But as it says, they are the ones evangelizing the product. They're doing things, and just because there might not be your entire market, it still is pretty crappy that you're, what you have to do. And maybe that Singaporean grandma, gets laid up in bed and she wants to keep raiding.
Or she wants to catch Pokemon, but she can't leave her house at this point.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Let's moving forward to Ubisoft. Not that they're dropping out of E3, which isn't really news.
We already covered that.
Isn't really news at this point. If they were still at E3, that would be news.
Yeah.
If they were
E3 isn't happening and somehow Ubisoft is still going.
Yeah, it's like, we don't care. It's even if E3 isn't there, we'll be there.
We're pulling out the ball pit. What?
But we talked a couple weeks ago about there was a investigation to them by Solitaire Informatique, the French trade union, saying that there was unusually high rates of developer burnout and sick leave and all sorts of stuff. So they were doing an investigation into it.
Because there has been an investigation. There's alleged crunch issues. Yeah, there's lots of workload stuff going on. Has the union itself finished an investigation?
So there's a separate there's a separate investigation being done by NME, and nowhere I'm trying to find what NME stands for.
Enemy.
NME.
That's a strong name.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely want to start a company with that name. Who
they're
investigates
the ones
people?
They're the ones investigating. But anyway, the report. So this is where they were doing specifically about Just Dance 2023, and claims that Ubisoft Paris workers encountered a mess during the game's production, multiple unrealistic demands being set by studio bosses. Issues cited include claims of the studio not settled in the game's production engine despite a tight deadline, and not just 9 months of production left, needing to implement impossible creative decisions that have to be considered at all costs. So, obviously, this sucks, and is very bad for Ubisoft. My take on this, or this particular thing, part of the reason why I marked it, I was like, wait, Just Dance 2023? Isn't that just add more songs to Just Dance 2022?
Yeah.
I mean, so kind of. It's they add songs, but then there's stuff going on in the songs. I think it's been a while. I think they have people who have choreographed dances going on. Like you're adding songs, but if you think of it in terms of a rhythm game, there's still background art and whatever like video is going on, and then there's like the dancing and the beat maps and licensing and all kinds of other things that have to get put into a song.
But apparently, like they're talking about, they hadn't settled on the game's production engine and stuff. So maybe they were doing a full like new engine and everything for it.
Could be. I mean, Just Dance is one of those games that goes out on multiple platforms. Has kind of half turned into a live service as well, because you can pay for like an unlimited thing where you download new songs. There's I imagine there's actually a lot more work that goes into a Just Dance game than a lot of people think there is. Yeah.
I guess my thought is not that there's not a lot of work that goes into Just Dance, but it's a very well understood amount of work. You would think.
You would think, yeah.
That okay, maybe, we know how long it takes to produce a song. We have to make X number of songs. Boom. We've done it 10 years in a row.
It's possible, too, that with Just Dance being a yearly release, and with the pandemic really kind of not it's not probably not technically a pandemic anymore or whatever, but like it's still out, COVID's still out there, and within that last 2 years having your dev stuff flopped around, it's possible that there was always like a lot of crunch going on, and now it's just like compacting even more, or it's always just been bad and now people have had enough. Like
you end up with I remember the thing with like Telltale, where they were releasing these little episodic games. Yeah. And when they crashed and burned, it came out that because they were doing episodic games rather than work for 2 years and then have to crunch right at the end when it comes out, they were just crunching always, because there was always a game about to come out in like a month. So we got to get this thing done.
And nobody knew what teams they were on what days. And that was a whole horror story of a thing to read.
Anyway, now I'm just imagining the Just Dance silhouette people, with their one colored hand holding like a strike, a union sign, and going on strike and showing us cool strike dances.
Yes.
I mean, I believe they typically like when they've done Just Dance E3 performances, I'm pretty sure they get people who are local and then they get them in costumes and things. Mm-hmm. But I do like the idea that if you, because it would be weird, but all the devs for Just Dance are also really good at dancing and are into it, and therefore when they go on strike, they're doing complicated like cheerleader style dances and holding each other up and then getting signs. That would be really neat.
All in yellow vests and stuff. Yeah.
Or it's like in, was it like Wreck-It Ralph, where there's like, all the characters in the game are actually like, they do stuff off. And so like you turn on Just Dance and there's just like nobody dancing in the game. And they're just like sitting here with crossed arms, be like, no, we're not dancing.
Yeah. I mean, they should
talk to Ubisoft if you want us to dance.
If they could pull that off, they should definitely put signs up that say we're on strike. Go check out our website to find out why.
Yeah.
Or just maybe say why.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I hope something good comes out of that.
Yeah, good luck to them. I hope they actually.
I hope so too.
Anything does, yeah.
Despite everything, I can't shake a small fondness for Ubisoft. But that is not it's been a long time since they had any positive news come out, but I used to quite like them. And they had kind of a cool, kind of scrappy attitude that I liked, but yeah, it's been a long time since that has been there.
I mean, they have like 4 studios all around the world. It's hard to be scrappy when you're like one of the kings.
Yeah, I think they've got like 15 studios now.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. I could only think of, I think, 4 in my head. I was like, let's see, Montpellier, there's Montreal, there was like Austin? Not
Just
Austin.
in like the opening credits for Assassin's Creed, there's like 10.
Yeah.
Wow, damn.
Now, you folks might know more about this than I do, but there's been... They finally showed off a ton of stuff for Tears of the Kingdom.
Who would have thought?
I'm so excited.
A game is coming out in May, and they decide to show you some stuff from the game. That makes sense.
And
they
did a gameplay presentation,
which was top notch. It's about 12 to 13 minutes long, and it was like it's just, I mean, there's really about 10 minutes worth of gameplay.
It's 10 minutes of gameplay because then there's like the couple minutes afterwards of glamour shots of the OLED, and
it was absolutely not anything what we expected. What do you know about it, Paul? I'm curious to know.
I know, like, it wasn't. When you say it wasn't anything like you expect, like it, the stuff I've seen about it looked like. It looked like the sequel to the previous game.
Okay. So
I mean, yeah, it kind of has that look. It's the same Link. Different outfit. I believe it's the same Hyrule.
Same kind of open
as far
world
as we
style.
know, but like there's sky islands. And...
Ride a horse, hit things with sticks.
Same kind of mechanics and stuff. Yeah, like it.
Well, no, actually.
No, the mechanics are different.
Yes, which is the weird thing, is that it's at a base game level, yes, it is hit things with sticks and ride a horse around and, look at some enemies.
Okay.
But the more complicated mechanics are the things, because we know from the Sheikah Slate in the first game is you have like magnetic powers and freeze powers.
Well, yeah, there's new powers, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and well, I mean, as far as we can tell, Link doesn't have the Sheikah Slate anymore.
Yeah.
He's got some sort of weird arm thing going on, and I'm going to assume arm powers.
Wait.
I guess is how we think about them, yeah.
Is that his Ultra Hand?
Yeah.
Kind of. So the Ultra Hand is the power that is building stuff?
Yeah, lets you glue things together that you won't be carrying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as many people will probably know, but for those of you who don't, Ultra Hand was an older toy that Nintendo made.
Right, it was like an extendy arm.
Yeah.
So
Yokoi made that,
a lot of people are looking at this as like a nod to the Nintendo past, which it probably is. Even if that's not what they call it in the Japanese version, localization wise, it likely is. They went over the fact that you can take like a stick and meld items together and make a stronger weapon.
So like those of you... chicken.
Yes,
I hope so.
Put the chicken on the stick and then attack people with it.
They showed a rock, and they showed a log, and they showed like one really long stick getting attached to a rake and making it incredibly long and ridiculous looking, which I love. I love when that stuff gets silly.
They kind of pick the ideas where it's like, okay, if I had a stick and then there's a big ass boulder and I fuse them together, well, the rock shrinks, which is a little weird. But now I have like a stick hammer thing that I can hit people, and it's more durable and it does way more damage.
Yeah.
But then the other thing is like I have a stick and then I attach it to a rake and I make it incredibly long. Like when you put it on your back, it's almost you wouldn't be able to walk into caves with this thing on your back. And it's like they really picked a couple examples to make you think way outside what you would be expecting. What you could do, because even the log thing is like I pick up a log and I can do. And it's like yes, it doesn't seem like you should be able to swing that, but it's like
and you can attach things to your shield and do stuff with that. Now, what I want to know, because I was thinking about this earlier, I've been rewatching this thing a lot. so in the kind of the vehicle building thing of like, oh, you can put logs together, and they're like, oh, but you can also detach and like rearrange things.
Yes.
Now they don't show us doing that with the fusing weapons. They just show us, for example, I have this tree branch and I stuck a boulder on the end of it.
Yeah.
Boulder has become smaller and now it's kind of a makeshift hammer.
Yes.
What I want to know is, what if I can use that to pick up the boulder, but then I can detach the boulder somewhere else and then use the boulder to,
it's a full-size boulder when you detach it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if I can move the boulder that way?
Because fusion is a thing that helps you make weapons. Ultra Hand is the thing that helps you manipulate objects at their same size.
Yeah, which means they might not let you unfuse a weapon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
fair.
would kind of be fair. But what if you could?
You fuse the Master Sword to something, and then when you hit something enough times that it breaks, then the Master Sword like shatters and is but that means that the thing falls off and now you have a boulder in some location.
So yeah,
perhaps.
they showed off that. They showed off Ultra Hand, which is building things, and there's like little wind turbines that you can turn on and off that seem to have a battery supply of their own that refills when they're off.
Yep.
Which very cool. I'd love some
Neat.
batteries that do that. All
so
on their own.
some like real like crafting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not with like a crafting menu.
No, because
in
the arrows are interesting in that regard.
Yeah, I was going to get into that. The other thing we saw was if you pull out arrows, you can just put different items on the arrows. And what they showed was
boulder
like
arrow,
chew jelly going on and becoming a freezing arrow, which kind of makes you wonder if you won't have to bother buying freezing arrows and
ice
stuff.
arrows or fire arrows or bomb arrows or whatever.
Chicken,
but then they also
arrow.
Yeah, and make feather arrow.
They also showed putting an eye on the arrow, and that became a homing arrow, and it just like zoomed after birds and stuff.
Wait.
Yeah, like a Keese eye.
Yeah, like
so when
like,
you kill a Keese, they'll drop key swings or they'll drop key size sometimes. And like in the original game, and you've played the original game, is that you end up with a lot of monster parts in your. You've probably noticed this, Paul. I think that you've ended up with a lot of monster parts in your thing, and you're like, what am I supposed to do with all these? Because
I haven't played the original game.
Oh, I thought you had. I thought we like lent it to him or something over the pandemic. Anyway, you end up with a lot of monster parts. Like it's like you beat up enough bokoblins and you pick up all their stuff. It's like I have a lot of bokoblin horns. What do I do with these things? I put them in my. Now I put them in my motorcycle because I have a ton of these things. But they're not really good for anything a lot of the time. So now it's like you have a Keese eye, and I might have needed that for like crafting something previously, but now it's like I can put that on an arrow and I can use it. And it's like, well, if all of the parts of enemies that you get off the enemies are things that you can attach to other stuff in the future, that feels pretty good because it feels like it's like there's more discoverable entities within the game. There's a lot wider kind of crafting that isn't just built around recipes. It's built around discovery.
Interesting experimentation.
Yeah.
Because like in that menu that also showed up, there was meat. Yeah. And I'm like, so I can
slap a guy in the face.
Can I hit someone with meat? Or is it more useful to like use the meat to like maybe deter wolves away from me? Or like what kinds of things can I do with that? The other thing they showed was Rewind, I believe it's called.
Recall.
Was it Recall? I thought it was Rewind.
Recall's the thing where you can get on where something falls from the air and you can get on it, and then you can make it go back up in the air.
Okay, well, whatever. They've shown this in a previous trailer as well. We didn't have a name for it. It was when like a big spike thing was coming at him and he like made it go backwards and it hit into enemies. But for this example, there was a giant piece of rock that fell down, and now you can basically use it as an elevator to get up into the into Skyroll.
Nice.
Now
the Skylands.
I don't know Skyroll.
Skyroll's very good.
I'm calling it Skyroll.
Yeah.
That's not an official name. That's just what people.
No, they just call it the Skylands.
The Sky Islands. They've been referring to it as in English, and it's like Skylands is right there. No. Like
but that's too close to Skylanders for me.
Skyroll is excellent.
The other things we've kind of seen in the trailer, at least the one that I thought was most interesting to me, because I've been watching videos where people kind of go through the trailer a little bit at a time.
The 10-minute trailer that spawns 50 30-minute analysis videos.
Yeah. I don't have to watch all of them.
Yeah.
The scene where you're running, you're on the horse and riding through. there's a very short period of time where there's a couple of frames where you can see a Korok on the side of the road saying something about trying to find someone.
Yeah.
And I think the Korok even has like a little bag on his shoulders. And so people are like, what does that mean? And I'm like, what does it mean? But also Koroks are back. And I guess I shouldn't be like, I guess they should be. I should just expect them since they were in the last one. But at the same time, I'm just like, I like the Koroks.
Tiber brings up their concerns that it doesn't become like cooking Breath of the Wild, where you have special recipes to make things that have cool effects, but you had no reason to make them because you could just have like, as they say, throw a meat and a fruit together and call it a day. And it's true, right? It's like I have a bunch of mushrooms that get like I have a hearty truffle and I have a bunch of other random food, and then boom, I have something that refills my energy 100%. And it's like, yeah, the not all of the things that you might want to make. Like there's so many things I didn't make in Breath of the Wild. Like I made meals that give me like the sneak ability to keep me silent and stuff. And it's like, I just make one of those to see what happens. I'm like, cool, but why would I ever need that? But I think the idea is it's not about whether you think you would need the thing or not. It's whether you can make the thing or not. Mm-hmm. And the one thing I always wanted in Breath of the Wild was, as you discover recipes, that it would actually, you'd fill it out in a journal.
I really hope there's a cookbook.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like with any crafting system in things like this, like there's a lot of sort of knobs to turn on that, and a lot of sort of quality of life things. If you need a bunch of arrows, do you have to do them all, or do you have to do it one at a time, or can you say like make 10 of these? All that kind of stuff that can turn what is a fun sort of crafting thing into just kind of an arduous process. So there's some subtle details there that hopefully they can get right.
Yeah, there is one other thing they showed off was the going through a roof or going through the roof of a cave, and like you basically kind of just swim portal through it, and then that takes you either to the top of the building or, on the cave example, up to the top of a snow cave, which I think is interesting in terms of like reducing your need to climb everything and maybe a faster mode of transportation. But you brought up an idea, Beach, because you play a lot of Metroid games, so I'm sure this came up to you right away.
Yeah, it's not about using Ascend, which is the ability to go up from inside a cave to the top of the mountain. It's like, what if you use Ascend and directly above you is a cave that you can't get to unless you ascend into it?
Yeah, like hidden rooms. And I think that could be really possible because they're in the mini map section. If you pay attention to that, there's coordinates.
Yeah, and
there's also your Z coordinates.
Yeah.
So you can
which can be really useful for play guides.
That's cool. I feel like that's it. That sounds like a feature that's almost like, they see people doing like all sorts of out of bounds shenanigans and speed runs, and they're like, what if we just make that a mechanic?
And that's that's also one of the things that I saw. It's like, this is people, what they've been putting into the game is it feels like they've been watching what's been going on in Breath of the Wild for like the last 5 years or so, where people have just been breaking the game in different ways. It's like
making vehicles and stuff was a thing that a lot of people were doing.
And it's like, what if we just put that in the game? What if we just let people explore and do that kind of stuff? Wouldn't it break stuff? Why don't we just design the game so that the game utilizes that kind of ability to do interesting stuff?
Yeah, I imagine there was quite a lot of QA testing that probably had to go on for some of these things.
And seeing these ideas is like, now I know why this game took 7 years to make. Like 6 years to make. I mean, it was out at launch. So, yeah, okay. So why it took 6 years to make is it's like, if you had to see all this stuff and get an idea of how it worked and understanding, okay, well, how do we limit people's movement so that they can't just immediately like dash through everything and ascend into the final level and then go ahead? And it's like, right, we want it to be an experience, because I mean, right now the speed run for Zelda is like 25 minutes.
I think so.
You can finish Legend of Zelda in like 25 minutes, and there's enough people who have kind of been doing that kind of thing that I'm sure to them it's like, okay, you can do that.
But
then what was the point?
But like
the rest of the game you haven't played, right?
Yeah, like to me that's not
is the point.
Like to me that the fact that you can beat it in 25 minutes using ridiculous speedruns shenanigans isn't a mark against Zelda. Like that's not something that Nintendo should fix. Like
No,
that's not
exactly.
that's not a
No,
mark
and
against
I
Zelda.
don't really think
Yeah.
they will.
Because by and large, most people like to me, it's like I've played Breath of the Wild for 200 hours, and I'm like, I will play this game probably for the same amount of time. So good luck talking to me in the future, Paul. But it's just like try to find a time when I'm not busy. But there's this sense that I have that I'm like everything they've put into the game. It's like, sure, you can use these abilities to break as much as you want, but also we're going to find ways to prevent that from happening. We can they can put things on the ceiling apparently that stop you from ascending through it. So they've already been thinking about some ways to be like, we'll find ways to kind of prevent you from using all your abilities in a way.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of, I remember way back in the day, there's the game Red Faction. It was a old game for PlayStation 2, and its big innovative mechanic was destructible terrain. It was one of the first games with basically everything in the game was destructible, which was pretty awesome. Like you would just be like, oh, there's a guy over there. I'm just going to destroy the wall that he's hiding behind.
Right.
Or I'm in a cave. I can just dig a hole with my rocket launcher and go somewhere else.
Right.
And they had the problem though that people kept getting out of the levels, right? People kept, and so they had a lot of QA stuff. So I mean, clearly, whenever you make a mechanic like that, like the ascend thing or whatever, whenever you make something like that, you're gonna have to do a lot of testing, and I'm sure there will be, ridiculous glitches with it.
Definitely.
As long as they're not glitches that you would encounter in everyday play, I don't think that's an issue. If there's weirdness that you can do if you, do half A presses or whatever, that's fine. That's all fun and that's all well and good, and everyone loves that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like I think the biggest, like, okay, so they've shown us a lot of cool things. I know some people aren't as hot on like vehicle making and whatnot, but when I look at that, I'm like, I don't think that's a necessary thing that makes you have to play the game.
No.
Just in the same way that I just completely ignored horses last time because I had to keep getting off of them in order to pick things up. So I was just like, whatever, I can run. And I'm like, if you're looking at the game and you're like, oh, more Breath of the Wild, and I didn't like Breath of the Wild, I would definitely wait and maybe see what comes out after, because it's not like May 12th is the only time you can buy this game.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I watch stuff for it, my brain's just like, we should just plug in Breath of the Wild right now and play it until this game comes out. Right now.
It's probably a good...
It's one of those games for me. Like I do the same thing when I see other people play Hollow Knight. Or I'm like, I should just play Hollow Knight right now. Or Celeste, like other games I really like. And so I'm very excited for Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, me too.
Nice. Maybe I should play Breath of the Wild to, I play it now to sort of ramp myself up into Tears of the Kingdom. It's Tears, right? Not Tears of the Kingdom.
Who knows?
It's Tears.
It
Has
Tears.
anybody ever said it out loud from Nintendo?
They after they told everyone what the title was, about a day later they clarified that. Yes.
Okay.
Good. All right.
Also,
well,
you should definitely play Breath of the Wild.
We have a copy at the office. It's not at the office currently, but you can probably get it from Graham. I'm pretty sure he played it at home for a while, so yeah.
Speaking of things that people often play at home, Dungeons and Dragons.
Hey!
Is this about the movie?
It's about the popcorn
sort
bucket.
of.
The popcorn bucket looks really cool.
Dungeons and Dragons is coming to Minecraft.
Okay.
That's not about the movie at all.
Well, it's a tie-in. It's a promotional tie-in with the movie.
Cool.
Did they get a popcorn bucket in Minecraft?
Maybe, I don't know. It's there's a story-driven Dungeons and Dragons DLC for Minecraft. That's gonna you go and here, let me
There's pizza.
Ooh.
Yeah, you're doing all sorts of stuff, which
this is for regular Minecraft, right?
Yeah.
This isn't like Minecraft Legends or...
No, this is regular Minecraft.
Oh.
Level up and battle iconic monsters, like new UI stuff. Gelatinous Cube, which is like the perfect Minecraft monster.
Yeah. Beholders and
Beholder, mimics. Yeah. Oh, this is Bedrock. This is for Bedrock. Which is the like the console the non-Java version of Minecraft.
Sure.
Okay.
The one you have to pay for.
No, you have to pay for both versions of Minecraft.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But you don't have like mods and stuff in the Bedrock version. Like it was the version that was originally like it made for consoles, and it's also for PC as well, but it's sort of the more locked down version. And then it works both ways though, because Minecraft Dungeons and Dragons is coming to Minecraft, and Minecraft is coming to Dungeons and Dragons.
All right.
Because there's going to be a new digital compendium of monsters with stats for creepers, endermen, and other classic Minecraft menaces. I hope that in the book, like in the actual world, they're all cubey.
Yes. Yeah.
It would just like you're being attacked by a monster and it's made out of just weird squares when everything else is just like normal.
Well, I hope because Minecraft's not my thing. I hope James and Uno and Serge play it.
And they haven't released the info about it yet, but they say they don't interact in the normal action system. They work in a way that makes them more reminiscent to how they operate in Minecraft, so it's going to be a funny sort of twist on how a monster works.
This is in the D&D version.
This is in the D&D thing, so they're coming up with some alternative mechanic for it, which is kind of a neat idea.
Cool. Okay, a neat idea.
They're being very cryptic about it. But anyway. In other things that's cryptic... Ian is in Splatoon 3.
Holy shit, how'd he manage that?
I don't know. He does mysterious ways.
In fact, it turns out Ian was always in Splatoon 3 because Big Man, the manta ray, turns out his name is Ian.
How did this come about? I didn't actually get a chance to read this one.
So there's a song was released by so Manta Ray is part of the group the Deep Cut or Deep Cut, but a different song by the Squid Sisters called Liquid Sunshine features an artist called Ian BGM. It's like the Squid Sisters featuring Ian BGM.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And people have realized that one, it's clearly Big Man, and also Ian BGM is a whatever you call it,
a pseudonym, a acronym, rearrangement of.
It's a rearranging the letters. What do you call that?
Anagram.
Yeah, anagram. That's it.
Thank you.
It's an anagram of Big Man. So, which is one of those things where people are like, I don't know if it actually is. And then it's like, oh, wait. Not only is Ian BGM an anagram of Big Man, but his name, the name in Japanese, is an anagram of the Japanese name for Big Man.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's very good.
Good. That's probably more why they would have done it that way. Because then in English, it's like, because in Japanese, it's like, oh, well, we can just rearrange syllables and we can have like what sounds like somebody's actual name. But nobody would have like the real name be Ian BGM. That's still a DJ's name.
And
ultimately,
in German, the artist's name is Renomat, which is an anagram of Mantaro, which is what he's called. So it seems pretty
really good,
like a pretty distinct plan.
Call me by your fish.
So yeah, apparently, I don't know. It hasn't, like, this is not, hasn't been officially confirmed, but it seems pretty obvious that that's what they're doing, or they're deliberately putting out red herring or something. Some
seems really fishy.
Yeah, so some Splatoon pun involving a red herring.
Is this a new Squid Sisters song, or is it like, oh, we've unearthed an old track by them where they?
I think they made it. I think it's a new one.
They're cutting a new one. Okay, that's cool.
Because they're still. It's like, yeah, you're in Splatoon 3 now, but they're still doing stuff.
Squid Sisters and Splatsville songster Ian BGM sync up to serve you Liquid Sunshine, a fresh battle theme for springtime Splatfest.
So it's brand new. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
And they're all up in the expansion stuff. Yeah. And this is why I really want to see Splatoon do some like spin-off games, because as much as I like Splatoon, right. I love everything about Splatoon, but it's not my kind of game I want to play. And
it's like I want those characters in something else.
I'd love for that spin-off thing to be something that not necessarily continues whatever storyline they're doing with the single player stuff, but like expands the lore of this universe that they have, because it seems like a fun, neat place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And finally,
the last piece of news.
Yes, the last of us news will be the last of news us. Which is going to be about The Last of Us.
Okay. I'm sure they didn't see that coming.
The new, there's a new, the re-release of Last of Us, or the special edition release, not special edition, remastered edition, that it had come out for PS5.
PlayStation.
And now it's been ported over to PC.
Mm-hmm. And everything's fine, right? Everything's perfectly good because this game's been out for so long.
You're very close.
Everything is okay.
Except the opposite.
Oh,
that's not really close at all, is
it? You're very close, except just put a not in front of that, and then it's exactly correct. Or after. So yeah,
got to put a knot in those rope physics.
People were
people
concerned about this when it was first announced, because they announced the developer of the people doing the port were Iron Galaxy.
Okay.
Who previously did the port to Batman Arkham Knight, which was another notoriously bad.
Oh.
In fact, it actually had to be pulled from Steam and refunded to people because it was so poor a port.
I feel like I'm seeing the future here, that something bad is about to happen to Iron Galaxy.
This port is not performing very well. Incredibly long load times, lots of weird glitches, lots of crashes. This
might be the last of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, frequent crashes, extreme loading time, stuttering, even on very powerful computers. It's just not good. There's a great video. Was it?
Iron Galaxy didn't do the majority of the ports, so says Decaped.
Oh,
that's got to go down real.
I mean,
sour.
If you're known for doing a previous port badly, and this one's not doing so hot, your name's probably the one that goes in there.
Yeah, fair.
Okay, check this is an amazing glitch. So this is
see a leg.
It's an arm.
I see an arm.
Well, what Robert sold me.
Speaking of
That's
which,
hell of a
where are
bitch.
they?
Oh, now it's not. Why does it keep doing this?
Whenever you pop back to showing,
I'm
it
like,
on the
oh,
screen.
hey, let's play this.
Back in our camp.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, here.
Watch for
We're
it.
not smuggling shit until I see them.
Drook.
You'll
Suddenly,
follow.
everybody's wet.
You can verify the weapons.
Yeah.
I can get patched up.
Yeah.
But she's
Just
not
in the middle of
crossing
a
to that part
cutscene.
town.
Yeah, everyone has just become
I want Joel to
moist.
watch over her.
Whoa, I don't think that's the best
Ellie.
idea.
Hot where they are. Immediately hot.
Yeah.
Where they are.
Smuggling shit until
Watch
I
it
see
again.
So if you
Here.
watch his arms,
Yeah, there-
specifically,
Oh yeah.
they go, they change.
Huh.
Somebody just jacked up the heat very quickly, and they just.
I guess they were thirsty and they solved that problem.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, some unfortunateness. It's all. I mean, PC ports are often kind of fraught with this kind of stuff, and of course, developing for PC, especially in these intensive 3D games and stuff, it's always going to be harder than developing for a console where it's a lockdown target in terms of your
Yep.
capabilities and stuff. There's always weirdness with the PC, but especially when it's like a console port, yeah, there's all sorts
But
of
still,
weirdness.
You'd expect
I mean,
that.
you'd think by now that people would have figured it out, but no.
Yeah.
Can you imagine just standing around in a room with everybody else, and then suddenly everyone gets like they're just dripping, they're damp
Yeah.
from head to toe, and I feel like it's one of those moments where it's like you've noticed, but you want to see if somebody else will point it out first in your conversation. So you have
Yeah.
like this room of people just being like, "Nope, we're not going to discuss this.
I'm actually more
we're not
surprised
going
that
to talk about it."
I'm not surprised that to this day, none of our fans have actually pointed out that one crap shot where we literally did that, where we were all wet in one scene and then we were dry in the next scene. It's very weird that they never saw it, and nobody said anything yet.
The moist crap shot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the one where we just yell "moist" into the microphone like 20 times because we
Don't
hate
give
our
them
audience?
Don't give them any hints. I want to artificially drive up view counts.
Anyway,
That's what ASMR things do, right? They get really close to the microphone. They just say words people don't like,
Moist.
like that.
Yes.
I knew the moment I said that Beach would immediately give an example. He's very reliable. That
I
way.
like the word moist. I don't know what people have a problem with, but there are words I don't like, but I don't remember what they are.
I
which
don't
is why
tell
I'm
people what
always
words I
happy.
don't like. That's not information I give out to people.
Yeah.
I did used to say the word moist a lot because it made other people make faces that were really funny. So again, don't tell me words you don't like. I will say them. Especially if I can see you.
I feel like there's probably either quotes or clips or highlights for all of us reacting to words that we didn't like
Yeah.
said by other members of the crew.
I know years ago there was a thing we were talking about where it's like, well, people are like, if you don't like moist, just say damp. I'm like, and then of course the follow up to that is like, those don't mean the same thing. Would you rather
No.
have a piece of cake that is moist or a piece of cake that is damp?
I can't articulate what the difference between them is, but I know when I want one and when I want the other.
Damp just sounds like a word I use to not say damn.
Damn.
It's a damp shame.
Damn.
It's just you have a really strong accent. Anyway, that's all the video game news for today. As mentioned previously, no checkpoint next week. Be doing PPR prep, but we will be doing ChillPoint next week again. Hopefully it'll be in person. And yeah, thank you everybody for joining us.
Don't forget patreon.com/loadingreadyrun, store.loadingreadyrun.com.
Definitely want to mention that too, because we the Welcome Aboard series of limited edition merch from Moonbase Space Lines to help celebrate the launch of new Moonbase Mark 6, which we have not moved into yet, and we will not be moved into like tomorrow or anything like that. It's not happening that fast. But to help us with that launch, go check out that merchandise. And currently, we have sold the maximum amount of pins that I have on hand. I'm going to address how we're going to be moving forward with more merchandise. But for now, if we're sold out of a thing, put your email address in the blank and smash the notify me button, because I have a feeling I have to clear a certain amount of people wanting a thing at this point for Moonbase merch if we're going to actually do a second run, because we only had so much in the first run that we were allocating. It's complicated. I'll try to explain it maybe in a video or something, get it out later.
Just at least like if put your email in the thing if you want to buy it, and if we're out for now.
Yeah, but I will say that is really awesome though. That obviously we want to make sure that everyone can get whatever they want, but people supporting us so much that we ran out of inventory of a thing is also pretty darn good.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Allocated inventory. None of this stuff.
So much.
Not all of this stuff has been made yet. The pins exist, but not everything has been made yet. So,
in fact, I believe many people have received their pins already.
Yeah, which is awesome. I'm glad you guys are enjoying those, and thank you for posting pictures of those. The whole process is way more complicated than I want it to be, but this is where we're at.
We should say goodbye.
We should say goodbye.
Right. Thanks, everybody. We will talk to all y'all later. Bye.
Bye.